What's going on, everybody? You know what day it is. It's time for your next dose of Warrior Wednesday with your host, the Wounded Warrior Guy. That's me. And today we are going to be going over part 4 of our 7-part series on what you can expect once the MEB process has concluded and you get ready to transition back into the civilian world. This week I will be starting part 1 of the second stage. So if you have not tuned in to see the first 3 parts of the first stage, the goal setting stage, make sure to go back and check out those videos. There's a lot of great content. But this second stage, we discuss the importance of location. And I want to begin this video by saying that the scenario that I'm going to use for this video is not necessarily taking into consideration the goal setting stage. So just make sure that whenever you're getting ready to leave the Wounded Warrior Barracks or wherever you're at and come back into the civilian world, that you still do that first stage and use those goals and take those goals into consideration whenever you decide where you want to live. For example, if you decide that you want to go back to school and that you want to study to be a doctor, but you figure out that you come up with a list of 5. I always tell people to come up with a list of 5 things for everything that they want to do. You come up with a list of 5 locations that you want to live in. You choose location A because it pays the most and it's the prettiest and it's where you want to live. However, location D or E is the location where you're going to be able to get the education that you want. You're going to be able to get that quality education that you're looking for. So you might have to come back to the drawing board, have to shuffle around your priorities and have to say, I really need to make sure that I'm not losing sight of my goals. And I'm still living in a location that's going to provide everything that I need, i.e., it's going to give me the right amount of BAH, my benefits are all going to be there, and I'm going to be able to get to whatever specialty clinics and get the care that I need to make sure that I stay healthy and to make sure that whatever disabilities I have are continually looked after. So you got to take all that into consideration. And that's why, guys, I tell people so often that this decision is such a big decision, especially location. Every state offers different benefits. Every state pays different BAH rates. Schools have different quality of veteran care and veteran assistance and veteran affairs. And so all that has to be taken into consideration before you're ready to walk out of the door and just get thrown right back into the civilian world. Because if you don't answer all these questions and if you do not take this seriously, you will not be successful, at least not to the degree that you would want to be. But for this stage, so I've broken this stage, which is where you should live, not where you want to live, broken it down into 2 parts. We're going to be doing part 1 this week. I'll be going over part 2 next week. Part 1 is going to be going over the pros and cons from state to state. We're going to be looking at BAH rates, different benefits for disabled veterans, and we're also going to be touching on like specialty clinics, hospitals, that kind of thing. And so just to kind of set the scene a little bit, for this stage, we're going to be looking at a E4 who has suffered some form of brain damage and has residual brain damage effects, and they are going to be needing to have access or to at least live in a reasonable vicinity of a veteran hospital and or regular hospital with neurology and neurosurgery clinics available. Okay, so then we sit down and we say, okay, where are some places that I wouldn't mind living, okay? And we come up with a list. And that list, oh, I also want to say, guys, so I know it's real late. I kind of had to throw this video together. So if you see me like looking up and looking down, it's because I had to tape my notes up on the wall. I didn't have time to type it up and do a share screen type thing. So, yeah. So if you see me doing that, that's why. But, so we come up with a list of places we wouldn't mind living. And that list includes Los Angeles, California, Tampa, Florida, Denver, Colorado, New York City, and El Paso, Texas. It's a very random list, and there's a reason why I use those, but we'll get into that here in a second. So just going to do a quick rundown of the specs for each one of those locations. We're going to be talking about BAH. We're going to be talking about where each location ranks as far as the cost of living within the United States territory. Then we're going to dive in a little bit deeper, and that soldier, that E4 with the brain damage and brain damage residuals, will hopefully be able to come to a conclusion by the end of this video as to which location best suits them. So, Los Angeles, California, $2,256 per month for BAH. It ranks 18th in the United States for cost of living. Tampa, Florida, $1,542 per month. It ranks 34th. Denver, Colorado, $1,500 flat. It ranks 32nd. New York City, BAH is $2,700 and it ranks 3rd. And El Paso, Texas is $987 per month, but it ranks 126th on the scale of cost of living. And so we have that information. Now what we need to do is we need to find clinics that are going to be able to provide the care that the soldier needs. And so I pulled up 2 different websites. I pulled up the top neurology hospitals in the United States, and then I pulled up the best care that is provided and the top reviewed VAs in the United States. So, starting with the hospitals, the most renowned hospitals with neurology and neurosurgery clinics, where they have like specialty clinics to provide the right care if this soldier needs to go in there, is the top ones that I found that correspond to the locations we looked at. Number 2 ranked was in San Francisco. It was Johns Hopkins in San Francisco. Then we have 3 more locations out of the top 20 that are in Los Angeles. So that's a total of 4 within the top 20 that is in California. And number 6 ranked at NYU, and a hospital in New York City. And there was 1 more in New York out of the top 20. However, once I pulled up the top VAs and the worst VAs in the United States, we found out something pretty interesting. So the top VAs in the United States, number 5 was Santa Ana, California, and number 8 was Garland, Texas. So if you remember, we had El Paso, Texas, Garland, Texas, and then we had Los Angeles, California, Santa Ana, California. And I also looked up Santa Ana, California pays the exact same BAH as Los Angeles, California. So I assume that their cost of living is going to be relatively close to each other. The worst VA locations in the United States, number 5 was New York. And then number 9 was Denver, Colorado. So let's say that this soldier is trying to determine which location they would want to live in. And they're looking at those locations. They determine, okay, so we have a good hospital in San Francisco, several good hospitals in San Francisco and the Los Angeles area. We have a couple good hospitals in New York City. However, Santa Ana, California is going to be where I'm going to get the best overall care at a VA. And 90% of your time within a hospital is probably going to be at the VA. So that's probably going to be something that they put a lot of weight in as far as like what decision they go with when deciding where they're going to live. And knowing that New York has one of the worst VAs, ranking top 5 in the country, probably not going to bode very well for New York. So we have New York and Denver that have been crossed off, and California and Texas have started to move up. So if you don't have like any specific goals that are going to push you towards Tampa, I would say it's probably time to go ahead and mark Tampa off. Like I live here in Tampa, but it's for specific reasons that had to do with the decisions that I made during my goal setting stage. So, but we've narrowed it down to Los Angeles and Texas. Just to remind you guys, Los Angeles ranks 18th for cost of living. El Paso ranks 126th, and Los Angeles pays $2,256 per month, where El Paso pays $987 per month. Then what would probably determine where somebody would want to live is, like I said, the decisions that you made during your goal setting stage. And that's, if both of them offer the same thing as far as like degree or work opportunities or, that type of thing, then, I completely understand that. One thing that I will say is, and I actually have it, I'm going to pull it up here. Let me see. So I pulled up benefits for disabled veterans in specific locations. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read both of them to you. And so we're looking at California and Texas. Actually, haven't looked at the Texas one just yet. Okay. So I'll read both of those to you. But basically, what I mean by this, guys, is that veterans, disabled veterans specifically, obviously, you don't have to be disabled to get your VA home loan or, whatever. But disabled veterans get special benefits as far as property taxes. Every state has different laws for property taxes, and so it's good to know what kind of benefits you're going to have if you are a disabled veteran and what those specifics are to know whether or not one state might provide better benefits versus another. So I'm just going to read these to you real quick. So for California, there are 2 categories of full property tax exemptions for California eligible veterans or their surviving spouse may receive a basic exemption if the assessed value does not exceed $100,000. This number is adjusted annually for inflation and is currently a set amount. Blah, blah, it doesn't matter because it changes every year. The second category is a low income exception of the assessed value, and if it does not exceed $150,000 when the household income does not exceed an adjusted limit of $64,337. So basically, what an adjusted income is whatever amount of income that you receive once you have subtracted any ongoing payments. And I believe that it's payments that are further out than 10 payments. So what do I mean by that? If you have a vehicle that you have 8 payments left on, they won't take that into consideration when doing an adjusted income. But if you have a house that you still have 30 years that you're going to be paying on it, that is going to be something that they will subtract from your monthly income to get your annual household income. It's the adjusted amount. So California has two categories. They have, options there, and it looks like it goes to be pretty significant amounts. And these are full property tax exemptions, and it doesn't say that there's any. It doesn't, I guess, depend on what percentage of disability you have. Where some states do depend. Like if you're 10%, you'll be entitled to a certain amount, and if you're 100%, you might get full property tax exemption, and you don't have to pay property taxes on your home. Additionally, it's also good to look into the homesteader tax exemptions for disabled veterans. Um, Basically, it means that not only do you not pay property taxes on your home, but you wouldn't pay property taxes on your home plus any of the land that it's sitting on. And some states have like age brackets for that. Some states you have to be 65 or older to apply for that, but some states you don't. So it's always good to check into that. All right, so I'm going to read Texas here. In Texas, a veteran with a disability rating of 70 to 100% may be able to deduct $12,000 from their property taxable value. 50 to 69% may receive 10,000. 30 to 49% may receive 7,500. 10 to 29% may receive 5,000. Veterans with a full 100% disability rating are fully exempt from property taxes. Man, it's a hard decision, guys. It's a hard decision. So it would probably come down to number one, what decisions you made during your first stage, during your goal setting stage. If things are lining up in Texas, go to Texas. Number one, I pulled up the average home in Texas, 3-bedroom home, and it ranges, from about 160,000 to about 195,000 for the average home there, which is in today's market is fantastic. And Los Angeles, California, I don't even have to look it up to know that a 3-bedroom home in Los Angeles, California is going to be $450,000 to $650,000. If I had to just throw a number off the top of my head, I would say that that's probably pretty close. So also, if you want to look at the distance from Garland, Texas to El Paso, Texas, that might be a factor. Honestly, I would say that both of them are good options. You have more VAs that you can go to in the Los Angeles area. Los Angeles does rank pretty high, much higher. It has, great hospitals for neurology and neurosurgery. It has the number 5 top VA in the United States. And the distance between Santa Ana and that Johns Hopkins hospital is only 400 miles. So, it's not super far. It's not super close, but it's not super far either. You have all those options there. They both offer pretty good scales and categories for your property exemptions. Personally, I would probably, if I was this soldier, prioritizing my medical needs over everything else and not taking into consideration the decisions we had to make in stage 1, I would choose Los Angeles because it has good BAH rating. It has all the things you could ever ask for as far as VA access and care. Might be something that you would want to live in Los Angeles, California while you go to school and then move to Texas to, really take advantage of those property taxes. And that's always an option, guys. This location is not an end-all be-all. It's just what location is going to provide you with what you need at the time that you're going to be there. So personally, I think for this soldier, Los Angeles is kind of the location that they should go to if, let's say, they decided to go to school. They found a great school there. Go to Los Angeles. Take advantage of that extra pay, that extra BAH, and really take advantage of those great VAs and those great hospitals, which are invaluable in those first few years after you leave the Wounded Warrior Barracks. Then once you've completed your education, if you've gotten the education that you really wanted, then if you decide that you want to move out to Texas, buy that cheap home for that low price, take advantage of those property taxes, that would also be a great decision as well, because that there's still that nice VA out there, and I'm sure you could still find a hospital that's going to have what you need. It might not be rated in the top 20 hospitals in the United States, but it's still going to be pretty decent. All right, guys, that's my video. That's my breakdown for this theoretical scenario of an E4 soldier with brain damage and residuals from that brain damage. Come up with 5 places that you wouldn't mind living. Look up BAH rates, cost of living. If you want to look up, like, if it's going to be a long-term living situation, make sure to look up the average house of average costs for homes and property in those areas. Make sure to look up those property tax benefits and exemptions, and find out what the specifications are to be applicable for those. And then whittle that list down just like how we did in this video. And it's really going to help shine a light on which location is going to be the best for you and is going to provide everything that you need and help you be successful in the future. That's the end of this video. Stay tuned for part 2 of stage 2 next week, where we discuss, should you buy a home or should you rent out an apartment? But yeah, guys, that's all I got before I get off here. Just remember, even if you don't realize it, even if you don't believe it, there's a warrior in every single one of you. And I see it. Take care.